Hey everybody, so on this week's episode of Make It with Calvin, I'll be discussing good Christmas gift ideas for somebody who owns a 3D printer and does 3D printing. So let's dive in. Naturally, the first thing that comes to mind when you think of a gift for somebody who owns a 3D printer and runs it is, hey, filament samples. And that is actually a really good gift idea, especially if you know somebody has, say, wanted to try a different filament, but they haven't had time to do it or don't have the budget. It's a very good way to go. A lot of places sell filament samples. I'm just going to rattle a few off the top of my head, and I'll have a list probably up on the screen and down in the description of places you can go to. Printed Solid on the East Coast sells a fair number of, and good variety as well, of filament samples. Protopasta sells a really good selection of filament samples on their website. Also, I believe it's called flexifilament.com, run by somebody called Barb. They sell what are called slash spools, which are little spools of flexible filament, which is a really cool idea as well if you want to try flexibles, but that's a whole other video. Now, one other thing to keep in mind here is make sure you know what diameter your friend's printer runs, or it could be a little bit embarrassing. Both my Ultimaker 2 right here and the formerly tested Thingomatic that has been upgraded both run 2.85 millimeter filament. Now, primarily most, but not all, printers on the market run 1.75 millimeter. If you're not sure, type it into the computer and you'll see pretty much instantly a spec sheet for the printer, and you should be able to figure it out from there. Now, another good gift idea besides samples is getting them an online gift card. That way they can get whatever the heck they want. Nozzles, filament, use it towards a bigger purchase, things like that. Check with the websites that you're purchasing from if they offer this, but I would assume most places would, especially being they're an e-commerce store, so there's another really good option. Another thing that personally would make a great gift idea is this, the super awesome BuildTak removal spatula. This thing is an absolute lifesaver when printing. You don't even have to run BuildTak as your print surface. You just stick it down and kind of bump it underneath the print and things come up. It's definitely a lot safer than a putty knife and a whole bunch of other things for print removal. It's got a sweet little ergonomic handle. It's nice. Highly recommend it. Now, getting out of the more budget-friendly stuff, another option is just purchasing somebody, if you know their printer, a sheet of BuildTak. This stuff, if you print exotics, except for nylon, you print a lot of ABS or just do a lot of printing in general, this stuff is a lifesaver. Now, do note you do have to set this up properly for it to work right, but if you're experienced with 3D printing, this stuff is nice. A pair of very nice flush cutters. These are mostly used in plastic modeling to cut parts out of what's called a sprue, which is what holds everything in place for injection molding. These come in really handy for 3D printing because you can cut filament. You can pretty much give your print a haircut if you need to. I've literally gone around the outside just like trimming off little rough edges with them. Say you've got tree style supports that I know certain slicers do, like Mesh Mixer, or you do resin printing and you've got, say, like a Form Labs or something like that where it makes literally like a tree that holds the print in place. They're really, really nice to have. Buy a good quality pair from a name brand like Xuron, and as long as you don't go cutting difficult things or wire with them or exotic Kevlar filled stuff, the thing should probably last almost indefinitely. Another suggestion would be if somebody is big into building modular 3D printed items, a couple of good suggestions would be cyanoacrylate glue, also known as crazy glue. Buy this stuff from like a hobby shop. It comes in a little bottle. It's well worth it. Another thing would be spot filler, either Squadron Putty, stuff Bondo makes. It's quite literally a sandable filler in a tube, so you can apply it over an area. I have a video on how to use that stuff with thinning it and things like that I'll put a link into the video on. And lastly, if somebody does a lot of painting and also multiple part assemblies, sandable primer. This stuff is like the holy grail of 3D printing, finishing things. And until I actually used the stuff, I didn't get what all the hype was about. But pretty much what you can do is you can spray this stuff onto an item, let it dry, sand it, wear a dust mask, and do it somewhere that you don't mind getting dust everywhere. And over multiple coats of sanding and painting, it builds up a layer of primer on the model very quickly and easily, which allows you to hide boo-boos, imperfections, and layer lines if that's what you want to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Christmas themed episode of Make It with Calvin and didn't find it totally boring. It's a little bit tricky to sit here and say, oh yes, buy this for this person and buy this for this person. But I hope I kind of gave you some general guidelines, tips, ideas for good Christmas items to get for a friend who's totally into 3D printing. And if you enjoyed this or have suggestions, please leave them down below. I've got a couple more Christmas themed episodes, including a potential vlog of me taking Amtrak to go see my family over Christmas time, and maybe running into a few old people from the show down there. Who knows? We'll see. So I'll see you guys next time here on Make It with Calvin.